Panelist here today of Tom Willis, who's our Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder as well. So he's going to be sharing a lot on marketing and I guess how you can approach small business marketing, especially if you're just getting started, you're bootstrapped and you're looking to have impact and get clients in the door. And then we'll also be joined by one of our in-house lawyers, Sam Hown, who hosts a lot of webinars as well. And he will be covering off on some of the legal fundamentals when it comes to launching your website and things to keep in check when marketing as well. So just while everyone enters the room here, I'm just going to launch a poll. We just want to gain a bit of feedback on who's in the webinar today, a bit about your company and what you're finding most relevant right now, so we can customize our webinars on each topic that we do. So I've just launched that poll. If you could take a moment just to fill in those 5 questions, and then we'll get started on the webinar as well. Now, if there's any questions from today's webinar, please put them in the Q&A box, or you can also put them in the chat box as well, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation as well. Now, for everyone on today's webinar, there is an exclusive webinar offer that we have not presented before on recent webinars. So definitely stick towards the end, especially if you are a bootstrapped small business, or you're just getting started and you do need legal templates, legal advice, you might need contract review, and just some general reassurance that you're on the right track. So just going through today's agenda briefly, we'll start through what is LawPath, who we are, what we do. We'll be introducing Tom, and then he'll be going through a lot of the essential requirements when starting an online business. And then we'll hand it over to Sam, who will cover off on the legal documents and obligations. And then again, towards the end, we'll go through Q&A as well as the exclusive webinar offer for today. So just a bit about LawPath, who we are and what we do. We provide smart, simple legal for small businesses through our contract management system. So again, we have 380 different legal templates available for customization on the platform, and you're able to use not only the templates, but our full contract management system, including e-signature and branding for your legal documents to get them signed. So it's an end-to-end solution where you can come and create the documents, you can then customize them, you can then send them off to people who want to get them signed and then stored securely in the platform as well. So again, you can manage your compliance, but more importantly, you can connect with lawyers and accountants on demand in a single platform. So if you do require legal advice, accounting advice, or contract review, then this is always available to you on demand in the platform. Now, over the last 8 years of operation, we've served over 300,000 small businesses just like yours. We've saved over $100 million in legal fees. And over that period, we've garnered over 10,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot and Google. And we're just getting started on our mission to help small businesses like yours. So I'm just going to introduce our panel here, starting off with Tom. Tom has over 10 years experience of SMB marketing. So he loves small businesses, and he's done a lot of podcasts recently. He's been on Mark Burris. He's done a few other podcasts as well, sharing his expertise on marketing. So I'll pass it over to Tom to kick off today's presentation.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Ryan. Good afternoon, everybody. Very much looking forward to taking you through for the next half hour or so, small business marketing on a shoestring budget. So getting started with things, I think the first thing that I was really keen to cover off, and I'd love for everybody to really participate as part of this in the chat. I wanted to start with a little bit of a case study on a company that I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with, which is Dropbox. And my question to all of you is, how would you go about marketing Dropbox? Dropbox is a company that, especially when it was new and first establishing itself in the mid to late 2000s, it was quite hard to define in how you would actually go about finding new customers for Dropbox, how you would really be able to articulate its value proposition. So if you were putting on your marketing hat for a second and you were needing to go through and to market to Dropbox, how would you go about doing that? What would be your answer that you would have? I'd love to see everybody's answers coming through into the chat. So is it something that you would actually go through, and would it be something where you might promote, as an example, would you use Google Ads? Would you use something around social media advertising? Would you do something in the way of more above the line advertising in terms of TV and radio? What would be an approach that you might have? Cool. So we've got some responses starting to come through. Google Ads, FB marketing for starters, social media and networking. It's a difficult one, right? Because if you think about what Dropbox is and how you would define it, you would probably think about it as online storage. And that was really the way that a lot of people, that's how we see Dropbox. Now, the problem with that was that in the early days of Dropbox, they were able to create a lot of really great demand, be able to build a beta waiting list and get a lot of people onto the platform. However, what they found when they started to really try to scale Dropbox is that the typical marketing channels that a lot of us use when it comes to online startups and particularly tech startups was we would spend some money on Google AdWords, we'd hire a VP of marketing, and we'd really go through the process of being able to grow from there. Now, the difficulty for Dropbox was that, as I mentioned, a lot of what people would search for were terms like online storage and storage for businesses. Now, at the time, it's very hard to discern between what is a search like that, which relates to more in the way of enterprise data storage solutions, and then what applies to what Dropbox was trying to do, which was for small businesses and really for individuals as well, provide a storage solution. So what they were finding was that their cost per acquisitions were super, super high, that they were acquiring a user, just a user, someone to come and sign up for free for about $233. And this user at the end of the day was only spending $99 on the product. So the unit economics of that weren't quite working out. There was so much money being invested into finding new users and the return they were getting just wasn't there. So the keywords, as we mentioned, were extremely expensive. And the results that they were getting in the initial kind of findings from display and social ads had, similarly type of poor results. So what they really needed to work out was how they were going to continue to grow. But they realized that while there was user growth that was happening organically, it wasn't something that was really being fueled by your typical paid marketing channels. And so what they really identified was that there was a flow and an epiphany that a user would go through there. They'd hear about Dropbox. They'd realize that, oh, this is something that I didn't really know what it was, but now that I've got it, I don't want to get rid of it. I want to keep it as part of my tech stack. It actually works really well for being able to store and share files. They get very happy about that. They tell friends. There's a word of mouth component of that really grows. And they thought, what we really need is we need more of this final step of where people are happy and telling their friends. And so they said, what can we do about actually looking to maximize that? And this is where what they worked to build through was actually to establish themselves with building out a referral program. So they provided an easier way for businesses to be able to spread the love. The referral program had a double-sided incentive. And what that means is that you would be able to refer a friend who would be given a special offer. In this instance, it was additional free storage, and you yourself would get additional free storage. So by doing this type of a double-sided offer, they were able to increase their signups by 60%. And with a big investment into analytics, they could really pinpoint the times when they should be servicing this offer, when someone was using the product a certain amount where it justified them needing that additional storage and then being able to push on that referral side. So it looks something like this. Business would come through, they'd have all of these different offerings, and each of the different things that you would do and the actions you would take would activate you to having more additional storage. So you see there, you can upgrade an account and get 50 gig of storage, you can refer a friend, get 16 gig of storage, or you can actually share on socials and get an additional bit of storage as well. So as a part of how that was going and the results that they were able to generate from that, they reported having 500 million users in 2018. It's estimated now that that's about the 700 million mark in 2022, an valuation of roughly about $8 billion. And as part of that, they've spent next to nothing on their paid marketing strategy along the way. It's been something that's really been invested through the word of mouth and the referral mechanisms that they've been able to build. So this really takes us into what we're talking about today, which is bootstrap marketing. And the idea is really how we can develop a tactical marketing plan, very rich on tactics, being able to then give the maximum return on investment, ROI, at the lowest cost while aligning with the brand's goals. And so really the aim of today is to help you to find more ways that you're able to grow your business without having to invest further into marketing dollars. Now, the reason that we wanted to run a presentation like this and the backbone of this is, as small business owners ourselves, we really understand some of the different hardships that come up in growing a business. Now, one of the mantras that we have at LawPath is that we really aim for businesses to be able to do all of their legal protection and get their legal compliance infrastructure in order without having to put in a heavy investment into that, so they can spend more money on being able to grow that business, whether that's putting more money into developing their tech, putting more money into marketing, headcount, sales, whatever that needs for your business to grow. What we've noticed over the last few years being advertisers and businesses ourselves is that there is increasing costs that are coming into the marketing landscape. There's more competition for eyeballs as bigger players start to move into particularly the online markets. There's greater investments coming into here, which is meaning that costs are rising on your typical platforms. You know, everyone would start out and typically say, let's have a go at investing into Google or in Facebook. That is still something that's available, but for anyone who is doing that type of investment, and I'd love to hear anyone else's experience with this in the chat, these costs are going up. For a lot of businesses, if they look at their last 12 months, what they were paying to get in front of in front of a consumer then can almost be double, sometimes more than double what it is today. So this is something that we're seeing in different areas across the industry. And what we really want to help is we're all about helping businesses to be able to spend less and really focus on growing and succeeding. And so we felt it was really important as part of what we're doing to offer some of the insights that we found across our journey in being able to help you out. And one of the really difficult things that's going to come up for you as a business, as you already know, you will face endless decisions as you start to promote your business. What are we actually going to focus on? Where are we going to put ads? What we're going to target, what we're going to try and measure as part of this, and what are the different parts that we can tweak along the way? What are the levers that we have to be able to optimize things as part of this whole journey? So love if everyone, as we're going through this, if you can leave in the chat as well, where are you actually currently promoting your business? We've heard about how you do it for Dropbox, but where are you doing it for your existing business? Are you using Google Ads? Is it something where you've built and invested into a social media strategy? A partnership's a big part of what you're pushing. Love to hear from the businesses that we have on there, what they're doing right now. If you're doing nothing, let us know that as well, because we can really help in being able to help to start that from scratch as well for you. Cool, so I'm seeing a few people come through, social media, referrals, marketing's not your forte. That's fine, Suzette, that's why we're all here. Using word of mouth and growing a few core clients, Facebook, Insta, websites, LinkedIn. Cool. So we've got a good mix of really looking at a few of these online mediums, and a few of these things we'll cover, and hopefully we'll be able to offer some insights into a few additional areas here as well. Cool. But before we start, a few things that are really important to just cover off on, and I want to fly through this because I want to get into the meaty stuff, but we need to make sure that we're choosing objectives. We know our numbers, we know our audience as well, who we're looking to go after, and we're ensuring that we go through and we set our budget. So just really covering this on a high level, one of the things that I think is a really important thing to invest in first and foremost, if you're new to marketing, is working on this idea of an objective first framework. And so what the objective first framework really aims to do is to make sure that you're starting with what you want to achieve. And I see a really common mistake that a lot of businesses make is they say, oh, we're going to try TikTok advertising, we're going to do Snapchat advertising, we're going to do Instagram advertising, but they're doing these different channels without a real idea of what success is going to look like for them. And that makes it really hard to determine a budget, to determine how much they should be investing into there and where they need to allocate more resources. So what we really look to promote here is, as part of the strategies that we run at LawPath and what I've run for other businesses, is first and foremost setting out your objectives. What are you actually looking to achieve? You'll have a high level objective that then will really be broken down into KPIs, key performance indicators, small measurements that you'll have that know whether you're successful a lot along the way, whether they're leads or traffic, that you'll know these individually for what it is that you're looking at. Then we go about designing tactics, executing on our campaign, measuring the outcomes, and then optimizing the results. And that becomes a real loop of being able to say, we're going to try something else. Where did we get in relation to our objective? Was our objective correct? Let's see if we need to, first and foremost, can we optimize to try to get to our objective? Do we need to look at changing our objective for the next run of what we're doing there as well? And the typical way that marketers would look through this is how we route this into a funnel. So a funnel really gives us an idea of being able to understand where our customers are along a journey and what are the different tactics that we need to do to reach them at the different stages that they are. So at the top of the funnel, we've got more in the way of an awareness stage. So people who are needing to first and foremost know about your business. Then we move into them being a bit interested and then looking to get more information on you, ultimately leading to a conversion. Do they stay your customer? Are they retained? And then can you get them to refer? And the way that a lot of us look at funnels these days is that they should be really a holistic cyclical type of notion, where when you refer somebody, they then, when they're referred, they become back up into the top of the funnel because they become aware of somebody new that's being joined into there as well. So it becomes really self-perpetuating, where everybody that's being referred becomes aware of you. They then have their own journey through the funnel. And so each of the different tactics that we're going to play out are going to have a different impact on where a customer is in the funnel, and they're all going to focus on different areas of that as well. And the best objectives that we go about setting are smart. Most of us will know this from anything that we've done in business, that it's really important when we're setting objectives, that we're setting objectives that are specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. And so what you see a lot of businesses do when they get into marketing, they say, oh, I want to grow my brand awareness, or I want to get more customers, but they haven't really set themselves a really clear measurement of what success needs to look like. So as an example of a smart objective, I want to increase 20% gross revenue by the end of December 2022. It's very, very clear what I'm trying to do. I can measure against what I'm actually doing, and I've got a time-specific constraint of what I need to achieve there. So it's really important that you're setting those ones out for yourself. Some key numbers as we get into things that will be really important to focus on when you get into actually using different marketing tactics. One is your cost per your acquisition. This is really looking at what you're spending from a marketing dollar perspective divided by the number of conversions that you're able to get. And it's really important as a marketer and as a business owner that you really understand what is an ideal cost per acquisition for me. Where am I actually making money on the customers that I'm acquiring? And this needs to be offset by the next metric that we want to discuss, which is lifetime value. And so the idea of a lifetime value is that it's total profit that you can make from any given customer. And this can be a difficult thing to establish when you're new in business because you don't have a lot of historical data on how long someone's going to stay on as a business. But as you start to have somebody, do multiple transactions with you, if they're a subscriber, how often are they staying on? How often are they paying? You can start to get a gauge for what your lifetime value should look like. And if anybody wants additional resources on this, we can definitely share these following up from here. But what you really want to look at is how much is it costing you to acquire the customer versus what is the average lifetime value of the customer that you are acquiring. And if you can get things there in a really good spot, then you'll know that for everyone that you're acquiring, you're going to make money. And for different businesses, that looks very different, right? If you're a gym, as an example, if you're running a gym, you'll know straight away that people are going to pay month on month. They might pay, let's just say $50 a month. You're probably going to need to spend more money than $50 though to acquire them, because they're probably going to stay on for an average period of time. They might stay on average, as an example, they might stay on for 6 months. That means their average value, lifetime value, is $300. You need to make sure that you're acquiring them for less than that. So then, as part of all of this, there is the idea of needing to set a budget. What are the targets that you're looking in terms of sales? How much can you afford to pay for a customer, as we talked about? What are these key channels going to be? If you've got any historic performance and predicted performance, that's going to be really useful for you as well. And then also, what are some additional resources that you might need to execute on your plan? Do you have the right software in order? Do you have the right resources, headcount? And what do you need in terms of channel spend if you've got a goal in mind and a target cost per acquisition? So as an example scenario, you might have something like this. Each customer is worth $100 to me. I'm willing to spend $50 on marketing per acquired customer. And if I want to achieve 10 customers by the end of the month, then it's a pretty simple equation that we would work through, where to get to the budget that we've got is that we want to get $50 per acquired customer. I need 10. Therefore, I'd be working off a $500 budget. If I'm then making $1,000 in the sales of what I've spent there, my overall profit is going to be $500. So it's a really simplistic way of being able to think through and say, what am I willing to spend and what am I expecting in terms of an outcome? Okay, now we want to get into some tactics here and actually get into some stuff that's actionable and that you can take away and utilize in your own business. First thing that we want to talk about is what we can do around bootstrapping, PR, and public relations. Now, one of the things that we've done in LawPath over the years is had really good success in being able to build a lot of public awareness through some really cost-effective channels. And so being able to do this with PR is really effective. If you do it right, it can be free and it can get you in front of a lot of people as well. So an example of what we've done for this, we've done different things over the years. One was we did a little bit of a newsjacking hijack of the Triple J Hottest 100, where we really focused on where people were talking about that a certain song should have been allowed to be part of the Hottest 100, which was a Taylor Swift song. And anyone who listens to Triple J would know that Taylor Swift isn't really their target market. So they were very much, there was a lot of discourse going on. BuzzFeed was really driving an agenda here of making it that Taylor Swift was able to get into the Hottest 100. We actually came out and wrote an article that would say, is there the potential as part of this for Triple J to find themselves in some sort of legal trouble if Taylor Swift's song wants to be as part of that Hottest 100, because the terms and conditions of the Hottest 100 at the time were very, very loose. So we wrote an article about this that we then pushed out across Twitter. All of this was free. This got picked up by a number of publications, including The Guardian, Vice, BuzzFeed. And I think for those of us in New South Wales would know, there used to be something called the MX magazine, which was a train magazine that got handed out to everyone who was jumping onto the train. We were on the front page of that as well. And it was all really about taking an opinion on a really, at the time, a topic that had a lot of discourse and a lot of public awareness around it, and really being able to then use that hype that was generated on there for our own advantage. And it brought a lot of business and attention across LawPath. And so what the idea of what we did here was what we call newsjacking. And how newsjacking works is it typically works in the way of a news story will break, something will happen that's very, very, very big and everyone wants to know more about. But as news breaks, there's usually only a certain amount that you can know about a certain topic, because there's only so much that's actually come out that's objective and factual. So what happens as that public excitement grows is people try to come up with then new angles. They try to get subject matter experts. They try to get some really strong opinions to be able to really fuel that news cycle and be able to bring more eyeballs to their news websites. And so this is where you can come in and be very, very clever and actually be able to get some attention onto your business. So really what this involves is trying to find topical news stories relevant to your organization. A great way of doing that is using Google Alerts. So you can set up an alert for your business that's covering a certain topic. And then anytime that something on that topic is covered in the news, you'll be hearing about that. Twitter is a great way of doing that as well. Once you've actually got an idea of what you're going after, you can then find the contact details of journalists from target publications that you want to go after. There's different tools that you can use for doing that. Thankfully, a lot of the time these days, a lot of journalists, they are looking for new news. So they'll often put their email addresses in their Twitter handles or on their LinkedIn profiles. But there are tools, as an example, a tool is called Norbit, which can help you in actually being able to validate if that email address is indeed correct. And then you can go out and actually start a conversation with them. So you can either do this directly through them on Twitter or on LinkedIn through their different profiles, or you could go out and reach out to them through your email. And a tool that you can use for being able to do this on a greater mass is a tool called Mailshake, which allows you to send multiple emails to people through your Gmail or your Outlook as well, to be able to really maximize the effectiveness of this. So a few final tips before on this topic we wrap up. As part of this, you're going to need to pitch to multiple publications, because on average, only 1 in 8 will respond. And so you're going to try to get to as many as you possibly can to maximize your effectiveness and your reach there. Make sure as part of this that you're sending emails early, because journalists are generally going to pick up on stories early in the morning. And with this as well, make sure that you're really prompt with your responses to keep momentum going. With a lot of these channels, that's a really key thing, that you need to be prompt and make sure that they're not losing sight of what's happening there. And with this as well, if they link back to you in their publications, it's a great opportunity for referral traffic, and it's a really great thing for your search engine optimization as well. So there's a lot of added benefits in there. And then you can do all of this really with actually not investing any amount of money in a marketing budget. As I mentioned, there are tools like Mailshake that you can use, but you could really just do this yourself as well with just a little bit of elbow grease. So that's one that we'll take away and something that you can look to apply for your business. One that you can do on a bit of a greater scale as well is this idea of content marketing. And so content marketing is really, in a lot of respects, a guaranteed avenue to success. If you can really keep in focusing on generating high quality and consistently putting out content, there is a great opportunity for you to be able to continue to grow your awareness of your business. And this can be very, very, very effective, particularly in getting people aware of your business in the early stages. So the idea of content marketing, it's that practice of creating, publishing, and sharing content. And the idea of it is that the content adds value and builds a reputation for your brand, but it's not really a hard sell. It's something that you're creating content that then can be tied back to you in some sort of way, but you're not really jamming a marketing message down the throat of the consumer. So this is really, in a lot of respects, what a lot of businesses are trying to do nowadays. They understand that people don't like being sold to. We get that enough. So they can use content in a way of being able to tie back a certain topic or education to an audience. And so with this, a lot of businesses, if you see where they're actually focusing a lot of their attendance, and this is from 2019, but if you look at more up-to-date polls on this as well, it is always the same. Content marketing is leading the way in terms of what businesses are looking to do, because they really understand that an investment into content marketing is almost guaranteed to work if you can be consistent with it. So a few examples of some case studies that we show here. An example of this is finder.com.au. They're a partner of LawPass, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard of Finder. So what Finder have been able to do is build out just an absolutely massive portfolio of traffic and business for their website, really by being able to focus. For them, it's really been on search engine optimization. So what they do is they create content on a range of different topics, and the topics are really varied. You know, Finder's known for being someone that does a lot of financial comparisons of home loans, of credit cards, of mortgages. But what they actually do in the content that they create is they literally compare everything. They compare things like cryptocurrencies. They compare things like Pokemon Go locations. They compare things like streaming services, because they know they can build out a really good base of then people knowing that they're the site to go to when it comes to comparing and finding out about different services. So as I've said here, 60% or more visitors to finder.com.au, they enter the website through keywords with 3 or more words, which is quite profound. So people are finding out about them through just basically typing something into Google and then finding out about through Finder on that way. They've got a massive amount of traffic that's really high value traffic. And really all that's been putting into here, as I mentioned before, is elbow grease. They put the work into actually investing into a content strategy. Another example of this, Monster, which is really well known in the US, lesser known here in Australia. That Monster, what they focus on is it's a job portfolio for being able to find and apply for new jobs. Now, they've got a component of their website called Career Advice, and it focuses on industry news as well as giving job seekers an edge. So it might be, as an example, you can see here, these are 10 things you can do to improve your career. This is what you can do when you're bored in your career. This is the best way to interview. These are companies that are hiring. And through the content that they're putting out there, 22% of people visiting the website are coming through that content. So that's creating for them a way of being able to start a relationship with a business that ultimately is leading to more business, and it is costing them next to nothing. So these are a couple of examples of how that's done. And content can really cover all types of things. We've just focused then on 2 blog examples, but it can really cover things from the likes of quizzes. It can be a game, a competition, all the way through to doing expert interviews. We're doing content marketing right now through doing things like these webinars, case studies, awards, testimonials, white papers. There's a range of different ways that you can do content marketing for your business. And you'll need to really think in putting yourself into the shoes of your consumer. What is the type of content that they're going to consume the best and be able to interact with the best to be also commercially impactful for you? A couple of examples that I'll show. One is a software example from a company called SEMrush. And so what they do is it's a competitive analysis tool for being able to do online marketing and doing things like finding new keywords on businesses. They've done something called a content quiz. And so what this is if you think that you're the best in content marketing, basically, they've put together a quiz that covers off and says, how well do you know content marketing versus other marketers out there? So it's a great way of them being able to attract content marketers, get them to complete a questionnaire, make them, again, aware of what it is, build up their database in terms of contacts in a really fun and engaging way. But then there's a lot of other examples of how this is done. Just as an example, the other week I had a clogged vanity at home and I didn't know how to fix it. Did a quick search into YouTube, which, as I'm sure some of us might know, but a lot of us won't know, is actually the second biggest search engine outside of Google is actually YouTube. So a lot of people are looking for new content through actually going onto YouTube and finding out about things. So in this example, I've searched for how to fix a clogged vanity. I've come up to an answer from actually a plumbing company in Adelaide. And as you can see here, they've been able to, this piece of content had over 180,000 views on it. They've got nearly 2,000 subscribers. It's just a great example of where they've said, we can help you with this. But if you need any additional help where it's something outside of what can be shown through a DIY video, contact us, let us know. And if you're local to the business, they can help there. And so these are all things that you can do and apply in your business. Now, a practical example of actually how you can do this, you'll probably want to know what people are actively looking for. And there's a few tools that you can use for really being able to help you there. So keyword research goes a really long way in being able to find things. And so a couple of great tools that you can use for getting started here. One is called Keyword Tool, and this is a free tool. It's just the keywordtool.io. And what this allows you to do is actually just type in a couple of keywords and it will use Google's auto suggest, which I'm sure we've all seen as we start typing in that Google wants to complete that answer for us. It'll give you an aggregated list of all of those. So I've just written in how to repair broken and then looked at all of the different results that come. Now, if I'm in a construction business, I can now come up with different content that's covering all of these different needs. So you can see here how to repair broken concrete steps, how to repair a broken door, how to repair a broken drain pipe. And I can go through the ones and pick the ones that are relevant for my business and then create content for those, whether that's video content or written content. And I know that that's going to have a really tapped in audience into it just based on people are already looking for that. So it's a great way of me being able to build and really guarantee me a certain amount of eyeballs to my business if I can continue to build that content. There's other tools you can use for this as well. Uber Suggest is a similar one. And SEMrush, what you can do is you can actually put in your competitor's website and see where they have content ranking for, and you can really use that as a way of then being able to leverage and work out where you want to put things in. So when it comes to content distribution and promotion, that's a really important component of this as well. So of all of the different content that you're putting out there, what are some of the different things that you're doing as a way of actually promoting it? Do you use your email database if you've got one? Are you promoting it on social media? Are you promoting it through things like Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups that already have a built-in audience? You can use things like Quora and Reddit and different websites for being able to make sure that that's across to people. And as we mentioned before, sometimes you can actually use your content then as a way of being able to generate PR as well. So if something has become topical and you've got content on it, if you get that in front of a journalist, it can be a great way of combining the two tactics that we've already talked about today. All right, now the final one that I wanted to go through and cover off on was on referrals and partnership marketing. And so partnership marketing really focuses as part of what we're doing. It's strategic, mutually beneficial collaborations between brands. And so this is a really, really important one, I think, in today's present environment, as I'm sure a lot of us are doing right now, with there being a little bit of hardship from an economy standpoint. A lot of us are looking at where we can look to save funds. And a great way of us doing that in our marketing is actually partnering with other businesses who are trying to do the same thing and actually collaborate on ideas where it's mutually beneficial for both of us. So partnerships at LawPath are something that we promote a lot of. Two ways that we do it. One, if you're a subscriber of ours and stay on to the end because we've got a great offer for those of us who are looking to join our platform. But we offer partnerships where you can sign up for LawPath and get access to exclusive offers through partners that we work with. And here's an example of a few partners that we do work with. And it's with these partners that we offer them a benefit of being able to say, hey, we're going to send you over some great business. If you can provide a great deal to our users, we can then actually work in a really mutually beneficial way where you can get a new customer and our customers are getting great value for money. So it's a great win-win way for both of them to work through. Now, what's happening for LawPath through what we're doing here is these offers are now turning into where these businesses that we work with are now sending us business because we've made ourselves so important to them in terms of a referral source as well. Now, the reason that we do partnerships, as I've mentioned here, there's a lot of different reasons, but It's really as a way of being able to increase revenue, increase brand awareness, and improve customer retention. A great thing with doing partnership marketing and people you're getting through referrals and partners is that they convert a lot faster and at a lot higher rate than you're typically used to seeing. So it's a great way of being able to grow that out. So a few quick tips before I hand over to Sam on the partner marketing side of things. Really try to make sure that you're adding value to partners without having to exchange funds to start. So a great way of being able to do that is say, hey, I'll send you a few people, you can send me a few people, and we'll work on some sort of a contra arrangement. We can use these same tools we talked about in terms of outreach for journalists that we can actually use for partners as well. There's a great opportunity for us to do that. And if you're having trouble reaching out to partners, a lot of them, and particularly their marketing teams, are very active on their social portfolio. So make sure you can message them on there and actually get in touch with the person that you want to reach. And make sure as part of this that you show the partner how you can add value first. So what is it that you're going to do to them? So with all the partners we work with at LawPath, the first thing that we always aim to do is say, first and foremost, we want to help you to get more business. If you can give us a great offer, we can get you more business in there. And once we show and prove the value of that, everybody then wins on that side of things. Then they say, well, I want to do stuff because I don't want to lose this referral partner. So I'm going to start referring people back through into LawPath. Make sure as part of all of this, really important for business owners, be prompt and be persistent. You are not a partner's first priority. So they at different times are going to say, well, if communication dies off here, I'm just going to leave it and nothing's going to happen there. You need to really be driving things. So getting back to them, being persistent and making sure it's something that goes. There are partners that we work at LawPath that have taken over 18 months to actually become through as a partner. So it's really important that you start those conversations early. You'll have quick wins, but you've always got to keep at it. Because often what will happen is that they might not be in a position where they can think about it at the time, but it's usually something that they're interested in looking at. And then develop ways of actually tracking those partner referrals. So promo codes are a great way of doing that. You can use tracking links. If you've got a Salesforce set up, you can use different ways of being able to make sure they come through from there. And then very easily just to start, just making sure that you're asking people where they've come through from is a great way of just being able to track things on an early stage. Now, before I move over to Sam, we are going to share these slides here, and I've got a bunch of bonus tactics that I want to take through because I think it's really important for all of us that within our business, we've got a great understanding of what some of the different tactics are going to be that we can use to grow our business. So if some of these you're already doing or they're less applicable to you, check your inbox. We're going to share around a few bonus ones and some examples of how we've done that at LawPath. Now, it's really important that we cover off next with Sam what we need to think about from a legal standpoint when we're doing anything in the marketing and advertising space. Because while obviously there's a lot that we can do, there are a few important considerations that we need to factor in on this side of things as well. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to pass over to Sam, who's going to take us through what they are.
Thanks very much, Tom. That was a lot of great tips for marketing. I'm just going to go through some legal considerations that you need to cover off. So first of all, we're just going to talk about your legal documents, privacy policies, terms and conditions of trade, and so on. And then we'll cover off on things like intellectual property, direct marketing, as well as consumer law and some compliance issues as well. Okay. So first of all, legal documents. So look at privacy policies. We have a lot of these legal documents in our LawPath platform as well, if you're a subscriber. So we have a couple of different types of legal, privacy policies. Privacy policies are not an absolute requirement, but they are an absolute requirement if you run certain types of businesses. So if you have a business that turns over $3 million or more per year, or if you don't do that, but you provide, say, healthcare services, and that includes things like fitness or yoga. If you deal with any kind of direct marketing information, so if you collect personal information or you sell personal information for reward, if you're a contractor of the Commonwealth or a subcontractor of a contractor of the Commonwealth, and then there's a bunch of other types of businesses where you do need to comply with the Privacy Act. And so if you're one of those businesses, you need a privacy policy. Even if you're not one of those businesses, but you want to give your customers the best kind of service and give them assurance that their information will be well protected, then it's a good idea to have a privacy policy in place. Now, website terms and conditions of use. For online businesses, these can fall into two different categories. One can be a general terms of use for your website. So that covers things like intellectual property over the content of your website, any liabilities for things that might go wrong, liabilities in terms of what they might post, or information that you post on your website and so on. And the other one, which I'm going to focus a little bit more on, is the sale terms and conditions. So if you sell products through your website, then you should have some set of terms and conditions governing things like guarantees and warranties for your products, payment for fees, how it's going to be distributed, delivered. Terms and conditions around all of these things are very important. And there are also some guarantees that you can't contract out of. So all businesses that supply products or services are bound by consumer guarantees under Australian consumer law. If those products or services are for personal or domestic use, or even if they don't, they cost less than $100,000. And so these guarantees relate to acceptable quality of the product or service, the timing of the delivery. If the product or service has a major failure, so let's say if it's a product that fails to meet safety requirements, or if the customer has told you that they need services or products that can do certain things and what you've delivered can't do those things, then basically the consumer has the right to choose between whether they get a refund or a replacement. Whereas if it's not a major failure, so if it's a fairly minor sort of an issue, then you can set some limits on what you're willing to provide to the consumer. So let's say you are willing to provide them a replacement, but not a refund. You're willing to provide them with a credit, but you're not required to refund them, for instance. Okay. And we actually, on our platform, we have website terms and conditions of use generally, as well as for sale of products and provision of services as well. Now, intellectual property, this isn't really something that's specific to marketing. This is an important issue for all types of businesses, and especially for small businesses that are starting out. And so intellectual property can include things like your business name, trademarks, copyright, which relates to any kind of content, any text, images, and so on, as well as what's called registrable intellectual property, such as patents, designs. Trademarks are also registrable intellectual property as well. And some important things to keep in mind are copyright. So copyright doesn't need to be registered. Copyright just exists as a right. So if you say, create some content for your website, you write an article or whatever, then that content is covered on the copyright law, regardless of it, and there is no registration scheme for that. It just exists. If you register a business name and you create a logo for your particular brand, then you need to register that as a trademark so that you can prevent other people from using that same logo or the same name or using something that's very similar to it. It also acts defensively as well. So if somebody else registers a trademark that's very similar to your unregistered brand, then registering your brand can help to prevent that party from trying to stop you from using your brand. And so an example of that might be the Fat Duck. There's a famous British celebrity chef who operates a restaurant called the Fat Duck over in the UK. In Melbourne, there was a cafe that operated a cafe called the Fat Duck. And so when the celebrity chef decided to expand into Australia, this cafe, whose trademark wasn't registered, got a letter saying that they need to cease and desist from using their brand. They've been operating for some time. And obviously it was quite an unjust and unfair outcome from their perspective, but unfortunately their brand wasn't registered. Whereas the celebrity chef, Heston Blumenthal, his company had applied for a registration of the trademark, and that trademark was eventually granted. And so that cafe had to go through a rebranding exercise that cost them quite a lot of money. So trademarking your brand can be very important. And if you are creating a website and you're using a third-party developer, it's very important that the developer assigns the rights over the website content to you. And this is, so I've just mentioned third-party developers, but it can also be a problem with co-founders. So if you've got a whole bunch of co-founders who are working on a particular idea, and they haven't signed an agreement saying that your company or this business entity that you've created has the rights to that content, what can happen is one of those co-founders could exit the business and then go off and use that same idea, set that same content to create their own product. And so that's what happened with a social media platform called Connect You. In the very, very early days, I think it was back in 2003 or 4, they recruited Mark Zuckerberg to create to help develop their platform. And unfortunately, a very short time afterwards, he went off and created his own platform, which we now know as Facebook. The co-founders, the then co-founders of Connect You, did try and sue Zuckerberg for infringement of trade secrets, but unfortunately that suit was unsuccessful. So that's a fairly big sort of high-profile lesson. So whenever you're collaborating with co-founders, trying to develop a platform or a product, or if you've hired a third party, just make sure that you've got agreements in place to assign the intellectual property of that content or of that product over to your business. Okay, so marketing. I'm just going to focus mainly on direct marketing through email. This is a fairly broad compliance issue, but we have a thing called the Spam Act, which governs all commercial electronic communications. And so if you're going to send, what we colloquially call spam to your customers, then you need to comply with certain rules. So you have to be clearly identifiable in the email. So you should have your legal entity name, ABN or ACN, and contact details in the email message itself. Every email must have either an unsubscribe link or an email address to which the recipient of the email can reply in order to unsubscribe. And the unsubscribe link or the email address has to be prominently displayed. And there has been an explanation that they can use that link or that email address to unsubscribe. There are some exceptions to the Spam Act rule. Government bodies, political parties, they're exempted. One query that I sometimes get through our consultation calls is how to go about calling customers. So telemarketing. So if you're going to be in the business of cold calling customers, then you need to make sure that you wash your marketing contact list against what's called the Do Not Call register. So the government keeps a register of phone numbers that owners of those phone numbers have submitted, so that they don't get telemarketing calls. And so you need to make sure that you wash your data against that list. And make sure that no one who's on the do not call list are on your list. Because if you breach that, then there are penalties that apply. PCI DSS. So this stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, and it applies to any business or any person who collects payment details, such as credit card numbers and bank accounts. Now, the precise requirements, they depend on the volume of the transactions that you process. To put it very simply, if you use a third-party payment provider, such as Stripe or PayPal, or you go through a financial institution like Combank or Westpac, then they will comply with the PCI DSS standards. What you've got to do from your end is to make sure that any payment details that you collect are handled in a secure manner. So if all you're doing is just taking credit card numbers over the phone and just submitting it straight to your payment provider, and you're not keeping it, then PCI DSS is not a problem for you. However, your payment provider, especially if you're dealing with a bank, they might have certain requirements that you have to comply with, such as auditing, scanning for vulnerabilities, and so on. And a lot of the times, these terms and conditions that set out those requirements, they vary depending on how much volume of transactions you actually process. So, for instance, if you're dealing with Westpac and you process more than 6 million transactions a year, then there are certain requirements such as vulnerability scanning and auditing processes that the business has to go through from time to time. Australian consumer law. So all businesses in Australia are bound by the Australian consumer law. Not all transactions are bound. However, for most small businesses, Australian consumer law will be very, very relevant to pretty much every transaction. Some of the key compliance requirements under the Australian consumer law include the fact that you can't engage in misleading, deceptive conduct. You should go without saying, but some people, they forget. You can't make false representations. There are, and these rules, they also apply to the use of testimonials. You cannot exploit vulnerabilities in certain types of customers, and you cannot have unfair terms in your contracts. I'm going to go through a few of these in further detail. So testimonials, you can generally use genuine testimonials. The only exception that comes to my mind straight away is regulated health services such as doctors. So they can't use testimonials if the testimonial relates to the clinical aspect of their service. So they can't say, oh, the doctor's a diagnostic genius, he cured my cancer. You can't say that. You can't use that kind of testimonial on your website. If you have if you're going to use testimonials, you can't make them up. You can't use testimonials from another business. And if you use a platform that displays reviews, then you cannot go hiding unfavorable reviews. Now you could sort reviews in order of number of stars and so on, but you can't hide unfavorable reviews. If a testimonial was paid for, then you need to disclose that in the testimonial. So you could say something like, this testimonial was obtained as part of a paid promotion, for instance. If you're dealing with vulnerable customers, you've got to keep that in mind and make sure that you don't engage in any kind of sharp conduct that might rope them in to their detriment. So for instance, if you push a customer to buy a product when they can't understand what you're saying because they don't speak English or they're mentally impaired, then you cannot do those things. Unfair terms. So these are terms that are in what's called standard form contracts. So these are contracts that are accepted on a take it or leave it basis. So they're basically non-negotiable contracts that clearly advantage one party to the detriment of another. So for instance, if one party can unilaterally increase their fees without any notice, and the other party can't get out of the contract because of the increase in fees without having to pay a fee, then that would be an example of an unfair term. So you need to, there are now going to be new rules that set penalties for businesses that have unfair terms in their contracts. Those rules are set to come into force in about 12 months. There's a bit of a 12-month grace period where businesses can review their contracts and make sure that they don't have unfair terms in their contracts. So if you need any help with that, contact us and we can review your contracts for you. And I'm just going to hand you back to Ryan, and he can run you through how LawPath can help you.
Thank you for the great presentation, Tom and Sam. There's been a lot of information there. So I just wanted to dive into LawPath and how we can help. Now, again, like I mentioned before, we have three main features that we help on our platform. So firstly, the contract management system, which manages your contracts from end to end. So you can create 380 templates. A lot of what was mentioned today, a lot of the agreements, privacy policies, website terms and conditions. We have about 10 specific ones of those, depending if you're a marketplace business, you're selling goods, etc. There's plenty of things there. On the privacy policy, we have a GDPR one as well. So if you've got website traffic from the EU or overseas, that would be highly beneficial to have in place. So heaps of documents there and e-signature on all of them as well. We then have personalized workflows. So we have 7 different workflows on different topics, including setting up a website or a blog. And again, depending on the specifics of your website, what you're doing, if you're collecting payments, affiliates, etc., then there's specific agreements that the workflows will walk you through. And then lastly, in terms of booking in legal consultations, you can do this on the platform at any time and speak to someone like Sam, or Damon, or all the other lawyers that we have on the legal advice plan, who can also review up to 4 pages of most documents on our platform and then give you that legal advice as well. So just recapping our plans here, the legal advice plan on the left-hand side, unlimited 30-minute calls each month with our lawyers on new topics, including up to 4 pages of document review. We've now built a live chat feature into the platform as well. So if you did want to ask simple questions, which don't need a consultation booked in, you can always jump on the platform and the lawyers will get back to you, usually within the same day. So that's helpful, but we've also introduced video calls on the legal advice and also the accounting plans as well. So if you do prefer face-to-face video online meetings, then we can do that as well. The accounting plan is exactly the same as the legal plan, but it does include chartered accounting advice. So unlimited 30-minute calls with our chartered accountants, including an ASIC and ATO agent service as well. So if you do need company changes throughout the year, such as a change in directorship or registered address, our company's team can handle that for you as the appointed ASIC agent. Now, just on the budget boost for business, this was announced around 29th of March this year, and it's really, really great for small businesses because it allows you to claim the value of your subscription at 120% on your next year's tax return. So as you can see here, if you're taking out the legal advice plan at $14.40 for the year, you can claim that at $17.28. So that's 120%. And we've got some pamphlets on this, which we can send out if you have more information as well. So today's exclusive webinar offer for all attendees here is it's our early Black Friday offer. So it's the best that we've had all year. It's up to 40% of our legal advice plan. So normally back on the last slide, you saw that it goes for $120 a month, and this is billed annually. And it's phenomenal value for what it is, considering lawyers can charge a couple of $100 an hour just for advice and a preliminary chat. But we can offer, again, unlimited calls each month with document review. So it's only $72 per month, paid annually. So it's, again, 40% off. It's a phenomenal offer. Not only do you get the calls and the documents and the contract management, you do get access to our accelerator program. And when you do join as well, our account managers will jump on Zoom. They'll go through how to use the platform. They'll go through the accelerator program. They'll walk you through everything. And should you have any questions, you do have premium support with the account managers throughout the year as well. So if you are interested in this offer, type yes into the chat or the Q&A box, and one of our team will be in touch later today. Now, if you are a LawPath subscriber, potentially you're on Essentials, or you purchased a document from us, there will be some upgrade options with credits in your account. So please still put in your information, and we're more than happy to have a chat. Or if you're just curious and you want some more information, again, happy to reach out on that one as well. So that is pretty much the presentation. Now, I've got a few little questions here for Tom and Sam, so I'll pass it back to them. I'm just conscious of time as well, but please pop in any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ryan. We will leave this open for question for the last couple of minutes. So if you have any questions on both the marketing side of things and being able to grow your small business for less, and then also on any of the legal considerations that come here, let us know those questions now, and we will be able to answer them for you. So there's one question here, which is always the question that we get. Can we get a copy of the slides? Yes, we absolutely will send this out. And as I mentioned, there'll be a few bonus things in the slides for today as well. There also will be a recording, I believe, of this one. If we have a look on this side of things, if our STEM toys promote nurture skills like creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, are there any constraints and rules about what can be claimed in our product packaging or marketing? That is one for you, I think, Sam.
Promotes nurture skills like creativity, problem solving, critical thinking. Are there any constraints, rules about what can be claimed? So the main thing is that you can't say that it will resolve any kind of let's say a developmental issue or any kind of health related issue. If you do that, then that starts going into the territory of therapeutic goods, and you may need to get clearance and so on. As for whether it can assist with things like creativity and problem solving, well, it's really a matter of whether that is actually true or a genuinely held belief on your part or not. Is there research to support that? Is there some scientific basis for you actually making that claim? And if there is, then yes, you can.
Great. Thanks for the question, Umesh. Will the slide pack be made available, as they were very quick but had a wealth of information? Yes, absolutely, they will be made available. So we will send these in the afternoon, and you will receive a recording as well to answer your question, Laura. So thank you for all of the great feedback that we've got here. Really appreciate having you all on here. Hopefully that there was something that everyone can take out of that, and really make sure as part of this as Ryan mentioned, and we're not in the business of usually doing offers as great as we're offering today with the legal advice plan. This is literally our best offer of the year. So if this is something that you want to take up, we're exclusively offering this to the people on this webinar right now before the offer actually launches. So if you are interested in taking this up, write yes into the chat. Our team will get straight on it for you to be able to take this up and be the first to take on this fantastic offer. So, and as part of this, as I'm sure you all know, you get the chance to speak to lawyers just like Sam, who have the expertise in the areas that you're wanting to cover. We've recently added a number of new lawyers to this plan as well, with really the aim being that if you've got different needs that are going to come up in your business, whether that's covering off on any commercial matters, if you need contracts that you're creating either through LawPath or elsewhere reviewed, we can assist with that side of things as well as part of this plan. If you've got any issues that are coming up around things like partnership disputes, which might be something that come up on the marketing side of things, business structuring, employee relations, these are all areas that you can cover off with. And to the point that Ryan made, this is usually something where a lawyer can charge you upwards of $600 an hour to be able to help with these. And so at getting this for this part, you can get the best price for being able to then access this at a really heavily discounted rate as part of November. So make sure that you're adding yes into the chat if this is something that you're wanting to take on. But other than that, we will leave you all to go enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you everyone for your time as well. I'm just going to pop a feedback poll up as well from today's webinar. We love to collect feedback on what you loved and what you'd like to see more of as well. So just before you go, I'll place the poll with 5 questions. And again, all slides and a copy of today's presentation will be made available through email. Again, I'll leave these slides on and the chat for the next 2 or 3 minutes if there's any further questions, but thank you for your time today.